Hello and welcome to this special broadcast from a rain-soaked Jammu evening. We're inside the beautiful Darbar Hall of the 100-year-old Amar Mahal Museum, and we're looking today at whether this day has been a watershed for Jammu and Kashmir, not just its history but also its possible future, as Mufti Muhammad Saeed and Narendra Modi come together in a second hug this past week, and the swearing in officially takes place with Nirmal Singh of the BJP to be the Deputy Chief Minister. But did day one also start with somewhat of a controversy that brought back a reminder of how there are innate contradictions in this alliance? There was an early controversy after Mufti Muhammad Saeed spoke about people us par, on the other side of the border, also contributing to a conducive environment for the elections. The BJP in Delhi was quick to distance itself, saying that the environment was made conducive by those who are loyal to the Indian constitution. But speaking earlier in the program, Nirmal Singh was very measured, and he said the media was blowing a few words out of proportion. On the program tonight, to look at the implications of this big day in Jammu and Kashmir, we're joined by Dr. Karan Singh, who's of course somebody who needs no introduction, the former Sadr Riyasat of Jammu and Kashmir, and we're effectively sitting in your house, Dr. Karan Singh, this evening. Also joining us from the BJP is Nalin Kohli. With me here in the studio is Amitabh Mattu, who's of course a preeminent analyst and of course a Kashmiri Pandit himself. And we have Mansoor Hussain of the PDP. I'll start with you, Dr. Karan Singh, because I know you to always go beyond party politics, especially when it comes to your home state of Jammu and Kashmir, where, as you reminded us, we're literally sitting in your home. This is a very big day. It's a moment of hope. Would you see it as that? Because I'm asking you this question not as a congressman, but as a veteran of the state.
No, I'm certainly not replying as a congressman, because I'm not a Congress spokesman. But let me say, as somebody who's been associated with this state from my very birth and from many generations, I think it is a very historic day. Because for one thing, after a 2-month delay, we have a government at last in the state. And secondly, I think that for the first time, Barkha, there seems to be an equitable balance of power between Jammu and Kashmir. This is tremendously important, because that has never been actually achieved so far. I think it's a very important and significant day.
Okay. Nalin Kohli, there's been an early controversy. You wish Mufti Saab well. Thank you, Dr. Karan Singh. We'll come back to you. Nalin Kohli, there's been an early controversy, and we're just going to play out that Mufti Muhammad Saeed's statement where he makes a reference to Pakistan. Dr. Karan Singh, stay with us. We're going to come back to you. Nalin, are you disturbed by Mufti Muhammad Saeed talking about us par ke logon ne bhi contribution di a conducive environment create karne mein?
Well, us par can mean multiple things. I can't interpret it because Mufti Saab himself has spoken. It could mean even people in Pak-occupied Kashmir, which is part of the undivided Kashmir, which is in dispute with Pakistan. With regard to it, that both the parties obviously have distinct positions, a distinct approach. But what's important is beyond the between the distinct approach or distinct positions that we both have, is important what brings us together. The reason why it's being called historic, the reason why it's of so much of importance and is being commented about is that despite all these differences, we are willing to work together in the larger interest of the people of the state and the country. And I think that's for us the focus area. Beyond it, I mean, in terms of peace, in terms of development, all of it, that's the focus. The rest of it is on the sidelines as far as we are concerned.
Okay, let's just listen to what Mufti Muhammad Saeed actually said, and then I'll take it to Amitabh Mattu when he was talking about people us par.
पार के लोगों ने भी एटमॉस्फेयर को कंड्यूसिव बनने दिया. That's my humble submission कि नहीं हो सकता था अगर वो कर लेते कुछ. आपको मालूम है कितना मामूली से एक्शन जरूरत था. They also allowed this democratic process to go ahead. हुर्रियत है और मिलिटेंट है. खुदा न खास्ता अगर वो इसको कुछ करते, कुछ ऐसा काम करते, इतना चुनाव नहीं होता, लोगों का पार्टिसिपेशन नहीं होता.
All right, so Mufti Mohammad Saeed referring to the people on the other side of the border. We're also joined by Sajad Lone on this program. He's a little late, but we forgive him because he's here. Former separatist turned minister in the government. But Amitabh Mattu, just to put perspective to Mufti Saab's references to Pakistan, and I will ask Sajad about that as well.
Barka, first of all, let me say that I echo what Nalin, Kohli and Dr. Karan Singh have said. This is indeed a watershed historic moment, a moment of opportunity to really build sustainable peace in the state and peace in the subcontinent.
Yes.
Now, a politician looks at the next election. A statesman looks at the next generation.
Do you believe he chose his words poorly? Do you believe he was trying to say something else?
Let me say this carefully, and I am choosing my words very carefully. What you want to do is enlarge the stakeholders, or enlarge the constituency of stakeholders
Yes.
who have a vested interest in peace.
Yes.
You know it, and I know it, and Sajad knows it, and Dr. Karan Singh knows it, and Nalin Kohli knows it, that Pakistan has the capacity to subvert. They have those who could subvert elections by killing, by other acts. This doesn't in any way undermine the fact that the Indian security forces, the Election Commission of India, the people of Jammu and Kashmir played a stellar role.
Yeah.
But if someone has to be given a recognition that you didn't subvert the elections, what's wrong with it? Are we just got...
Should we be acknowledging another country?
No, it's not a question. It's a question of recognizing...
And another country that is seen to bring terror into India?
If you're going to be an international lawyer, when we are talking about reconciliation, then we're going to get nowhere. We're talking about reconciliation within the state, within Jammu and Kashmir, and as Dr. Karan Singh said, the first time that you've had this balance. Let's not, at this moment of historical importance, see the glass as
half empty.
It's half full, and I believe that if you give this government which seemingly has an unlikely coalition of separatists and hard nationalists together, you could probably arrive at a real breakthrough, a breakthrough which will last for generations.
Okay, I just want to get Sajad to come in, and then we'll take it back to Dr. Karan Singh and Nalin Kohli and to Mansoor Saab. Congratulations, big day for you. There was a perception that you were a little upset at how both these parties had treated you, considering the risks you took in reaching out to the BJP, in being much ahead of the PDP in reaching out to the BJP. Aaj aapne mujhe sobha bola, I may be a small man, but I have big ideas. So your thoughts, do you want to set the record straight on whether you've been upset at how you've been treated?
No, nothing of the sort. You see, you have to understand that both the parties together, they have the numbers. They don't need me. But if they have done it, they've done it because they've reached out to me politically. So if you look at the numbers, they don't need me to be there. So,
But there's a deeper messaging in your story. You fielded a proxy candidate in 2002, Ghulam Muhyiddin Sufi, who became a candidate against you in the subsequent election. You were among the first separatists to experiment with democracy. And now you're in mainstream electoral politics, you're part of the government. Do you believe this is going to send a message to other separatists, Sajad?
Well, look, I'll tell you, I don't want to sort of exaggerate my being here. But till date, if you look post-1989, there has not been a single person who was outside the mainstream who has had a dignified accommodation in the mainstream.
Yes.
Partly because they might not have had constituencies, and partly because they had to fight against traditional, well-entrenched political parties.
Okay.
Now, this is a ray of hope.
You do think it's a ray of hope?
It is a ray of hope if you look at it at a certain perspective. Now, if there are some who are totally rigid, who feel that no, nothing is going to come out of it. But yes, this is an experiment of democracy, and it is perhaps post-1989 one of the good advertisements of coming here. Otherwise, they've all been bad. Whosoever has come out.
Look at your advertisement. Your brother Bilal's in the Hurriyat. Your wife Asma is Pakistani. She's the daughter of Amanullah Khan, who founded the JKLF. How can you not overstate the importance of your inclusion, wouldn't you say, Amitabh?
No, I think the fact that Sajad has joined this process, and I say not a process of getting power, but a process of reconciliation, is of paramount importance. And the fact that he has a distinguished wife from Pakistan suggests that this process of reconciliation could go even further. So I commend him and congratulate him, and I don't think he I've spoken to him. He's a friend of mine. I don't think for a moment he was ever upset about any
No,
situation.
like when I met Mr. Modi, you asked me that how did your wife take it? And I said that her Prime Minister had no problem attending his
Swearing in.
Why should she be upset if her husband meets...
That's an interesting point. Mansoor Sahab, on Mufti Sahab's Pakistan reference, if you want to just come in briefly and then I want to go back to Dr. Karan Singh. Yeah.
I told you.
क्या कहना चाह रहे थे वो?
मैंने आपको कहा कि in my first
क्या कहना चाह रहे थे वो?
मैंने कहा कि आप इसको इतना मत खींचिए कि out of proportion इसको बुरा मत कीजिए. This situation is like that. When in his district one minister got killed and finger of suspicion go to Pakistan.
So you're saying he was talking about a reduction in militant violence.
In militant violence.
Dr. Karan
You
Singh,
see,
let me just bring in Dr. Karan Singh and I'll come back to you, Mansoor Sahab. Dr. Karan Singh, are you worried, because you just said you wish Mufti Sahab well. I've also got Sajad here. How hopeful are you that this could be a turning point for other separatists to join the mainstream, and are you worried about the ideological contradictions of these parties?
No, I'm not worried. The fact of the matter is that despite their ideological differences, the democratic system has triumphed. They have talked together, they have discussed, I'm sure they've had sharp discussions, and they have finally come to a common minimum program. Unfortunately, I haven't seen it yet, so I can't really comment on it. So I'm worried in a sense. We're all worried that this experiment should succeed. Therefore, we must give it our positive vibes, our good wishes, and whatever advice, mind you, we can give. And many of us have had many decades of interaction with Jammu and Kashmir. Whatever advice, as you know, I belong neither to the BJP nor the PDP. But as an individual, my advice will always be available to the Prime Minister or to Mufti Sahab if they want to take it.
I'm sure they will gain a lot from your advice, Dr. Karan Singh. Nalin, brief comment before I come back here to my panel here. Do you believe that the BJP had to concede majorly on Article 370 by accepting the status quo?
I have three comments to make, one on your question and two preceding that. First, I think humility aside, Sajad Bhai's being in the cabinet, his being part of the government there, it's something big that has to be celebrated as the strength of democracy. And in any case, the elections in Jammu and Kashmir were a celebration of democracy, and the people there deserve credit for it. They braved a lot to come out there and conclusively bring about such a massive turnout. So I think that's part of that entire process, and we should salute it irrespective of political affiliation. The second part is to what Amitabh Bhai was saying. In terms of, after all, he was referring to the meeting of hearts. Yes, the meeting of hearts in every relationship is important. But at the same time, conclusive long-term benefit is brought by taking that emotion to the mind. And as an advocate, I say the mind helps you come down, firm it down in something that future generations don't look back for cause of dispute. So I think it's both, whether it's with anyone, and in terms of India, as a country, we've had examples of people who have got upset with us, our citizens, who've moved maybe on the path of violence, but ultimately come down to the umbrella of the Constitution and reaffirmed their faith. And therefore that past has to be forgiven, forgotten, and you have to move with hope ahead. Now the last thing which you were saying, that about Article 370,
quickly, Nalin,
that's the exact historicity of this point. It's not that anyone has, if you will excuse me from saying, compromised. I think, yes, just a minute, I'm making an important point. We've not compromised. I think what we've done is found an agenda of confluence. And in that agenda of confluence, we are able to make my truth, your truth, our truth, keep ourselves limited to that our truth, and move further.
Okay, Sajad, I want to ask you, and not to put you in a difficult position, but has your political ideology changed? And there's nothing wrong in ideology changing, but you wanted Azadi. Today you're a minister in the government. You wanted the army out of Jammu and Kashmir. Today you have a CMP that actually does not take a categorical position on Armed Forces Special Powers Act. Are you disappointed with no categorical breakthrough on the afspa issue?
No, look, I'll tell you, there are many issues in... See, what has happened is that when you look at AFSPA, you look at Article 370, you look at other things, which are very important, which are of paramount importance.
Yes.
But, and I know, when I talk to you, and I know my Twitter account and Facebook account, they're all going to be filled up with a lot of views and trolls.
That's okay, we all deal with that.
But the point I'm trying to make here, that after 12 years, I've been in politics for 12 years, I have, questioned the way you're saying is I've questioned all these things. But when you look on the ground, there are many things which stare at you, which are of even more paramount importance.
Like?
First of all, you see, my constituency is the north.
Yes.
And if you look at the economic status of those people.
Yes.
Now, I don't want this to be a quote, but the reality out there is the priorities there are totally different. You come down to Srinagar, the priorities change. You go down to south, the priorities change.
So has your political ideology changed?
It's not a homogeneous thing.
I agree.
One size fits all.
I agree, but have you found that you are challenging many of your own beliefs?
No, I'm talking of a time. You see, I'll tell you one thing. When you talk of army, being in a civilian population, I don't think any party, any person on earth would say, no, we wanted militarization forever.
Yeah.
You know, nobody wants that.
Yes.
Nobody on, and I'm the same adherent.
Yes.
That no, it should not be there forever.
Yes.
And it should go. We want a civilian state of civil state of affairs. We want a total civilian rule. You know, that's the basic human right. If you, it's a basic.
So you're not
human
disappointed
rights.
that there's no big statement on
You see,
afspa?
the point is, I'll tell you something, is that you also have to understand that level of violence has come down.
Yeah.
So once level of violence comes down, the number of human rights violations have also come down. See, there are other things like rights of prisoners.
Yes.
You know, that's to be looked into.
Okay.
That what rights do they have. That's very important, but totally ignored.
Amitabh, there's a perception that the BJP got its way on afspa and the PDP on 370. Would you see it that way?
You know, I'm not going to quibble about all this because I think this is a grand political concord.
Yes.
For political change as well as for good governance.
Yes.
And if you have a dialogue and a concord between those who have different ideologies, North Pole and South Pole is what
Mufti Saab
Saab told you.
Yes.
Obviously, there has to be accommodation. But I think as far as afspa goes, and I've said this often enough, this is something that is done by the state. It's the state which enforces the Disturbed Areas Act on the basis of which afspa is invoked.
And the CMP talks of denotifying the disturbed areas.
So you have two of them. You have a Mufti Saab, a mature statesman. You have a Professor Nimal Singh, someone who, as you said, has clarity, has vision. They can, together with others who form part of the unified headquarters, and Mufti Saab actually chairs the meeting of the unified headquarters, take a considered decision.
That's what he said at the press
conference. At the moment,
today.
you know, if you do it as part of a CMP, it becomes a political slogan, which is challenged and which is going to be debated by television studios like this one. But if you do it in a considered, regulated, calibrated fashion, it no longer invokes the kind of political emotion and passion that it would do today.
Okay, I have to take brief last comments. Mansoor साहब जब दिल्ली में बीजेपी हारी तो बड़ा स्ट्रॉन्ग स्टेटमेंट आया पीडीपी से ऑन रिलीजियस डाइवर्सिटी, घर वापसी, मुफ्ती साहब ने कहा ये सब इश्यूज नहीं होने चाहिए. तो अगर आरएसएस की तरफ से इस तरह के बयान दोबारा आएंगे, will PDP still criticize?
You see, I think Prime Minister made it more than clear.
In Parliament, you
In
mean?
Parliament. So we should believe in our Prime Minister. What he said, we should believe. Number two, in Kashmir, जैसे आपका पहला सवाल था, I told you earlier also, कि it is battle of ideas. We have to give room to everybody. Number two, ऐसे बातें कर रहे हैं लोग जैसे हम किसी और स्टेट के लोगों को कुछ दे रहे हैं
और देश के लोगों
और देश के लोगों को whether it is afspa, whether it is something जैसे सजाद साहब कह रहे थे, कोई भी चीज, कोई भी कंसेशन, कोई भी वो चीज जिससे लोगों को राहत मिले.
You covered Kashmir perhaps more than anyone else. So on this program, you can't afford to end on a cynical note.
No, I actually supported.
Because we have to all work together, including the media, to build peace in the state. And the media is one of the most important actors in Jammu and Kashmir.
I actually have no hesitation in saying that I think that it is a sign of political maturity that parties that have different ideologies have been able to come together, and I have always backed the process of this formation instead of a political vacuum. Dr. Karan Singh, brief last thoughts from you, and then I want to end with Sajad.
Political evolution, if you may.
I'd like to say
Yes.
that apart from delivering good governance, which they have promised and which everybody wants, I hope that the new government will put in place structures, constitutional, legal, administrative, that will ensure a fair deal for the three regions of the state. It shouldn't be something that just depends upon the whims of a political election. We have to put in structures, properly thought out structures, to ensure that, because that is tremendously important if you really want the peaceful and fair development of Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh.
And not to
this
forget the
needs to be,
reintegration of the Kashmiri
flagged.
Pandits.
With dignity and
Yes.
as well as the temple shrines bill,
Yes,
which
of
should
course,
be passed
there-
as soon as possible.
There are lots of
Yes.
other matters into which I cannot now go. But the fact of the matter is that it's very important that this opportunity should not be missed to put in some
Yes.
abiding constitutional and legislative structures.
Okay, Dr. Karan Singh Nalan Kohli, I'm going to thank you. I'll get a brief last word here from Sajad. Do you believe that you'll be able to persuade your brother Bilal in the Hurriyat to also enter electoral politics?
No, let's not talk
No,
about
it's as an example.
No, you see, he is a different person. Okay, he has his own ideology.
Yes.
And belongs to a different group. I have moved out of that group long time back. I think 12 years back, out of the Hurriyat. But Barka, the larger point I'll tell you that since 1947, we've always talked about ideology being an impediment to development.
Yes.
Now you have a prime minister who's focused on development. A government comes here, which gets together, ideologically, who are ideologically apart but come together,
Yes.
basically on account of governance, which translates to development. Now the challenge that I think is that will development facilitate ideological evolution?
When you reached out to Narendra Modi, did you fear a backlash? Did you think it was a political risk? And today, do you feel vindicated in having taken that risk? Because the PDP has played catch up in a sense with you.
No, it's not that. But
That's what Burnhall School teaches you.
That's what Burnhall. You're both from Burnhall. Everybody here I know is from Burnhall.
I had not even the slightest doubt that if you see, I'll tell you, even you thought I would lose. Okay.
No, I never thought you would
yeah,
lose.
yeah.
I never thought you would lose. When did I say that?
Because what happened, every journalist who came from New Delhi, this is a lesson for journalists in Delhi.
No,
That
I am not a journalist in Delhi. Huh?
If you come to Kashmir, go to the hinterland. Because if you go into that area where all the pressmen are sitting, you basically end up getting the typical view. Whenever somebody would come from Delhi, he would say, I know it was a mistake, but don't worry, next time.
No, I wasn't asking you about your election.
I predicted 2 seats for you on Facebook.
Yeah, he did predict 2 seats for you on
And which
Facebook.
alarmed,
I remember
of course,
that.
some parties.
My question was different. How did you decide to reach out to Mr. Modi at a time when it could have been considered politically risky?
I had full belief that we could sell development in the areas where I was strong, that we could sell development without compromising on anything which is ideological.
And do you believe...
Because wearing good trousers, earning a lot, in no way dilutes your ideology. This thing that I have to be a Garib Aadmi, to be a sort of a good Kashmiri, it has to go.
Arvind Kejriwal dant lagayega aapko. But very, very, very quickly, do you believe Mr. Modi will build on the Vajpayee legacy? Because he's very much his own person.
Well, I'll be very honest with you. When I came out after meeting, and I can tell it, I said it that day, I'll tell you today, it's very difficult to come out unimpressed. And he has ideas which are unique.
In his first speech,
I've got to wait for 10
public
seconds.
speech in Madhavpur,
Yes.
he said, invoked Vajpayee and said,
I remember that.
reaching out to the Kashmiri youth and solving problems of Kashmir within the framework of Insaniyat, Kashmiriyat and Jamhuriyat. And so far, he seems to have done it.
And Sajad, you think this is a moment of hope?
Certainly was a moment of hope, and I just hope, and I'm not talking of your channel, I'm talking of the media, doesn't convert a glimmer of hope, a moment of hope into hopelessness. That's a crime.
Yeah.
We leave it there. Sajad
Move
Lone,
on.
congratulations on this big day. Mansoor Hussain, Amitabh Mattu, and of course, thanks to Dr. Karan Singh and Nalan Kohli who were with us. That's it on the program tonight. Thanks for watching. Good night from all of us.